Welcome to Russian Ark. Today we explore how Russia becomes a spiritual homeland for people from across the world. In our studio we have two remarkable Italians who have chosen Russia as their true home, Camilla and Simone.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Grazie per
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
So it's always wonderful to see brilliant people from Italy here in Russia. We have a long history of connection between our people. We have a lot of Italians that did a lot for Russia and actually Russified, became part of Russian people and Russian culture. What brought you here and how do you feel here, Simone?
Well, 3 years ago, when I was living at that time in Spain, in Barcelona, and I was not happy with what I saw in that period of my life. I didn't like how Spanish state and Spanish society evolved. You can say everything like that. It's Europe. It was against my moral value. I come from Sicily. It's quite traditional region in Italy. And my family gave me a strong moral idea and values. So like we can say that I didn't fit in the Spanish society because notwithstanding I had a good job as a lawyer, I bought a flat and I have a good social circle. I was not happy with the massive immigration and the LGTB propaganda, and then they started the so-called pandemic, COVID, and I was against the sanitary dictatorship that was installed in Spain. So at that time I took a strong decision of my life and I sold my flat and I decided to emigrate. I flew from Spain and emigrated to Belarus because at that time the Russian border were closed for foreigners, and after a year that I spent over in Minsk, I had the opportunities to move to Russia. And I found a job here, and I decided to stay here because I always support Russia. Russia is quite similar to Italy, or better.
In what sense? In what sense are we similar?
Italy that looked 20 years ago, because here it's quite a pro-family state. The government helped demography, back the family, defend the national values. And even if after the collapse of Soviet Union, they try to keep alive the traditional values, and there is not this type of new phenomenon that we have in Europe and came from USA. Try to rescript, to modify to the history. So here they always defend the three nobles. It's like family, nation, and God. And I really like that. And the things that most of the Italian people, they defend these values. They are pro-family, pro-God, and in favor of national sovereignty. Then after the history, it's quite different because unfortunately we lost the war. So after the Second World War, Italy was and still is American U.S. colony. We are vassals. And for the contrary, Russia, it's an independent sovereign state that after that President Vladimir Putin came to the power, became again a superpower on the international stage.
Camilla, what was your way to Russia?
My way to Russia started actually many years ago when I was in high school because one of my friends, she's Ukrainian, and she was talking to me about Russian language. I was always like hearing her talking to her mom in Russian, and she was like at a certain point like, you should start, because I was also with my father, I was also like always talking about politics, about international relations. He loves this topic, and I was also interested, of course not at 12 when we started, but at like 15 I started to be interested. And so I was like, yeah, like I should start to learn Russian. And I started with her, okay? And then eventually I started to go to a Russian center. I spent there 1 year, And then I wanted to come to Russia, and my father is very pro-Russian, but he was like, oh, Russia now is very difficult to arrive there, and there are no direct flights. So, I mean, you're my daughter, it's better for you if you go somewhere near, okay? And I was like, okay. So I went for 6 months to Latvia. It's not to study Russian. Can you believe it? No, it was not a great idea.
It was quite a move, you know.
It was not very. No, but at the same time, in this way, I realized how bad I wanted to come to Russia, because I was studying there, and I wanted to practice my Russian.
Was it safe for you?
Honestly,
It's like, going to Germany in 1939 to study Hebrew.
you know what?
You probably could, but
I used to talk to people, and I was so like, how to say, I was not thinking about it. And I was like, yeah, like I support Russia. And sometimes people were like, like that. Thank God nothing happened to me, but no, at least I have a good level of Russian because of that. The center was actually really good, so I'm happy about it. And I went back to Italy, and then I met with a friend, and he was like, oh, I want to go to Russia this summer. I was like, okay, I want to go too, to study. And he was like, oh, we should go together. So I came just for touristic purposes. We were staying in an apartment together. And so we arrived, we stayed 2 months. I fell in love with, like, I've been to Moscow, to St. Petersburg, and to Lipetsk in those 2 months. And I fell in love, like, I really appreciated this country so much. And I didn't want to go back. So my father wanted me to study in Italy. And I didn't know what to do, okay? So I just left all my luggages here in Russia. I went back to Italy without luggages, so I had actually a motivation to come back here. Yeah, and I was like, Dad, well, no, but he was happy, of course. He was, like, now it's difficult. Now I feel why he wanted me to study there, of course, because my family's there. I understand it's difficult
And later
sometimes.
you decided to enter MGIMO University.
Yeah, but first it was like my preparatory course of Russian language, and now just this year I started to study actually international relations and energetic diplomacy in MGIMO. Yeah, but also last year I was in MGIMO. Yeah.
Wow.
And you
Impressive.
teach here in different places, and you have also this experience. What could you say about, for example, the level of our educational system here in Russia now, in comparing, for example, with Spain?
Of course, here in Russia university, it's I don't want to use like the word it's better, because like it's in my point of view it's more complete, and you have like a lot of faculties and professors. They're quite prestigious here. I think it's a little bit undermined by European propaganda, and of course there's everything a stereotype against Russia, even like on educational level. But here there are, for example, like her university, like MGIMO, like most of the diplomatic Russian diplomatic bodies, and CEO of Gazprom or Lukoil, they have studied there. I have colleagues because like as international expert. I'm often guest at RT, as in Spanish language, Spanish. So some of my colleagues also, they've studied there in MGIMO. Personally, I have 2 courses at NGU, at the Faculty of Globalny Processo. I was an expert on international system of international organization and European law. That it was my specialization. Because I had the opportunity to study at Luis Guido Carli University in Rome, and after that over in Amsterdam, FU Universiteit, and University of Barcelona. I worked for 5 years as international consultant for United Nations with the ILO, Special International Labour Organization, at the headquarters in Geneva, Turin, and South America. Here it's a more conservative university. There is quite a holistic approach. They gave a lot of emphasis to the history, for example. And for me it's quite important that if you want to become diplomats, or if you want to become, you have an high position inside the government, state companies, you should know, you should be aware of the history of your country. And quite surprisingly, they studied a lot foreign languages, not only European, but also, for example, Asian, because actually Russia, it's Eurasiatic state. So here a student can choose which language they want. This free choice. And even, for example, Ukrainian language. You can today study and choose a Ukrainian language here freely in Russia. It's contrary, like, for example, I experimented because 1 year and a half ago, I've passed through the Baltic state. I was in Vilnius in Lithuania. It was quite weird. It was awkward. I'm used to talking Russian. I think Russian, and automatically I was in a restaurant, and instead to say thanks, I just said spasibo большое, and I saw how the waiter and changed immediately. Suddenly, he changed the atmosphere in the bar, in the restaurant, and after that they stirred me, quite awkward. So I can fully understand how was like the situation in the Baltic state. In the Baltic state, they are neo-Nazi, basically. I saw the neo-Nazi march, and they rename a lot of museum. Before the museum of KGB, now it's like the museum of genocide against Lithuanian people. And what scared me more, that I talked with some cab driver, for example, he was Russian. And there are people that, of course, they have like 30%, 35%, they have a Russian nationality, or they have a Russian roots, and they are afraid to speak. They live like in South Africa, when there was the apartheid regime, or like when there was the Jewish during the Second World War. They are afraid to freely speak, to have like a Russian accent, or just talk in Russian or whatever. So it's quite weird. And then is the main hypocrisy. Inside the European Union, the former foreign secretary for European policy, Borrell, he talks that we are like in the gold million. We are in the flourish garden of democracy. Then it's fake. And what I explain to my students in the university, they should know how works European Union, which are the European Union bodies, and how's the European Union laws. And then you understand that democracy is fake. In Europe, we lived in a partitocracy and a plutocracy. Democracy, it doesn't exist. There was only an illusion for 30 years when there was the Cold War. They were like, in the sense, they were obliged to be like not so strong, not so pro-United States, because, for example, in our country, in Italy, the Italian Communist Party was at the peak, 35%. So they have the two model system. They were too afraid to have repression. But in Italy, we had the so-called tension strategy. We have a lot of terroristic attacks that were organized and planned by NATO.
You mentioned some stereotypes about Russians and Russia that are used against us in this very special, very deep informational war. As Westerners who came here, who definitely are still part of this Western world and Western thinking by your mind, but you are here, what kind of stereotypes could you name and tell that they are untrue? For example, about
Russians?
Yes, Russians.
But you mean like stereotypes that are like
vodka and
random,
bears in the streets.
That's true.
Yes.
That's actually true. No.
How do you respond, for example, to your friends?
No.
Yeah, then they're asking you why
so
Russia is not
dangerous
safe.
there.
Yeah,
It's always snowing.
How do you
Yeah,
respond
yeah.
to them?
Actually, I'm very open on my social media, so they actually can see the way I live. And I live like a student. I am not like, I don't have that much money. So I live like a student life. And they see that, and they know me. As a person, I'm very open. I like to go out, have fun, meet people in general. And I used to do that in Italy, of course. And so when I have some friends that are really anti-Russia, but they see the life that I have here, and now they're slowly changing their position because they see that it's not as they want to portray Russia in the West, of course. And yeah, I'm happy that I'm having a role, for this, because I really want, as I had my father, to tell me how actually in Russia was, I would love for other people to be, like the person that show them how it's actually here. Yeah. But beers and vodka, Yeah.
That's the main stereotype. Still,
No,
still
and
better than
also
vodka.
the charcoal people. I was talking about this with a blogger 2 days ago. It's not true that you're
Boris,
cold at
bring
all.
the knife.
Yeah, bring the knife. No, no, you're not cold at all. You're so generous. You're so open. Like people in the streets are always gonna help you. Like very open-minded people. So, and you're very calm too. So yeah.
What's your input?
Okay. Stereotypes, they are fake. Okay, some of the most stereotype, like for example, like it's criminal regime, it's like dictatorship here, like you know, like it's like a Gotham City, you know, it's quite dangerous.
So
okay.
you don't feel oppressed here?
Yeah, no. Hello, let's.
Okay, put the gun away.
Let's for a moment speak. Okay, I have the opportunity for work and studies. I lived in several, as I told you before, like in South America and in several European cities. Let's talk about Europe. Okay, in each major European city, the criminal rate it's skyrocketed due, unfortunately, for illegal immigration. That there are people like Afro-Islamic that doesn't fit in Europe, and you cannot walk freely. For example, in Milan, in Rome, in London, there is the highest rate of homicide. Sweden now it's like highest rate of homicide than El Salvador, for example. After that, Bukele come to the scene, took the floor. Then in Barcelona, I bought a flat in the city center of Barcelona. It was for the people that they know Barcelona. It was close to Plaza Universidad, so it's the same city center. And I was
We have
scared.
a rich person here.
No, I was like I had a good idea to buy and remote to restructure the flat. But after I sold, because it was impossible during the night, it's quite scary.
Yeah, I was also traumatized by
Yeah,
Barcelona.
they are like people that they cannot walk freely. Look, in Moscow or St. Petersburg, I've been in St. Petersburg, I lived in Moscow, Sochi, Minsk, I've been like in Yaroslav, Veliki Rostov, Kaluga. Everywhere I've been, no, I never saw any type of problem. You can walk freely, and my father and my mom, they were shocked because we were on the underground and they saw like a teenager, 14, 15 years old. It was like almost 11 or 10:30 in the night, and they were in the metro. My father said, how it's possible like, that in the metro in Milan or in London you can get raped. So first stereotype. Second, here the majority of the people that I've spoke, they support the President Putin. So there is not like there were like a free election here. Like I can talk about my country, for example, Italy. We had a technical government. My first education is I'm a lawyer, and after I studied before law, finished law faculty, and after international relationship. I would like to know, to talk with somebody that explain me where in Italian constitution exists the technical government. We had not elected government. That and first they should diplomat explain me why if. Ukraine is not member of the European Union and is not member of NATO, why my country should support and send money to a non-member state. So we don't have any type of international obligation or liability. We don't have, so democracy, it's a fake in Europe, and it's a long story. And let's have a look at the last election in Romania or in Germany. They overthrow the candidate. As a lawyer, I talk because I frankly and openly speaking with my colleagues, and they said, have you read the judicial opinion about the Romanian Supreme Court? They can modify the election by marketing a candidate with TikTok. So it's for me it's really, it's like George Orwell, 1984. It's like Europe. If we talk about general, if we talk about people, as my colleagues, she said, my compatriot, here Russian are cool people if you talk in Russian, but most of the people, they cannot talk in a Russian language because it's difficult. But if you know the language, the people are they are open-minded, they really friendly, they invite you over. I have a really good relationship with all my neighbors, Thanks Olga, he ironed me the shirt for today, so she helped me. Yeah, I bought her a cigarette, so we have a good business, a good deal. So like Russian are really nice people. So and they are quite open-minded and they're really interesting about foreigners. So here you have two, or they ask you, oh Italy, it's nice. Well, let's become friends. Or even other people, they ignore you because of Moscow, it's business city, they run. But there is I never witnessed any type of aggression in Paris and in London city center after 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. In the evening, it's quite challenging walking around.
I want to say something as
Yes.
a woman here in Russia, because also one stereotypes that they have in the Western countries is that Russian men are kind of like aggressive towards women. Yeah, I've been in Italy.
his
I've
face.
been No, I've been in Italy. I've been like traveling all around Europe alone. So I know how I feel like alone in different countries in Europe, and I was not feeling safe at all. And also, like in Italy, you receive lots of bad words from men. I received them like just because you have okay, this dress, you could have this dress and receive very bad compliments. I mean, not very nice words about your physique or whatever. And here in Russia, men towards women are really so much more respectful, and they would. I mean, I never had a bad experience. I just received compliments, but you know, like, oh my God, you are so beautiful. You are so nice. You are so elegant, and they're very kind to women, and they know how to talk to them, how to respect them, to ухаживать.
Court.
Flirting.
No, this is not the same.
That's the Italian word for this. I would say to be
Camilla,
like
would you like
courteous.
to marry a Russian guy?
You know, I've been thinking about this, and yes, on one side, yes, because I feel that, as he told, we are very, we have very close cultures, okay? So I don't feel that much difference.
Cultures like relation to family.
Yeah, like values, family values, and everything. The only thing is that my Russian is good, okay, but I don't feel yet ready to be in a relationship with a Russian because of my language. I've been thinking
Your Russian
yesterday.
is excellent.
I know, but I'm a very deep person. I love to have deep conversations, and in Russian, I don't know why, but I don't feel yet ready. I don't know. I've been thinking about it. But if we think about like just, you know, like two people going, you know, being similar, yes, I would be pretty happy with a Russian man. Yeah, 100%. Russian men are so good.
Guys, now we have an interesting story about one of your compatriots. His name is Andrey Palmeri, your friend, right?
Also mine.
Yeah. He's living in Donbass, and he has a very, deep thoughts about his way to Russia. Let's watch.
Мне Россия уже как родина, я считаю себе русский с итальянской национальностью. Приехал, потому что хотел жить в России. Я хотел открывать бизнес тут, в РФ. У меня была идея открывать магазин итальянской моды, итальянские сумочки, все такие. Ну, потом получилось, что не получилось это делать. А я находилась в городе Ярослав. И это было апрель 2014 году. А потом с это время только начиналось в Украине с Майдана. Я видел все, потому что все на телевидении тут можно смотреть. Решил поехать там доброволец на Луганскую Народную Республику, который...
Это удивительно. Почему вы решили поехать добровольцем?
Потому что я человек, который всегда заинтересовался политикой, геополитикой, такой. Я всегда, у меня был пророссийский взгляд. А я уже, когда начинал, это было в декабре 13, я уже понял, что начиналось что большое. Что это не просто гражданская война, это все может случиться. познакомился там с ребятами, которые они решили поехать там добровольцы. И это были добровольцы, потому что никто нас не платил. Это 100% я могу вам сказать. Это было начало августа, 1 августа попал в Луганск. Было Луганск это время под окружением. Ну, мы помогали освободить город. А я до 15 служил там Луганская Народная Республика. А потом я вообще не человек военный. Деньги там зарабатывать невозможно, потому что мы были добровольцы. У нас не платили, все это знают. Даже если в Италии меня инкриминируют за наемничество. Меня за это заочно судили. Это было 2005-2006. Я хотел учить, я начинал учить русский язык, потому что я хотел стать православным. Я хотел принять православие, но у нас это не получилось. Я пошел в российскую церковь, мне сказали, что книги на итальянском нету, учи русский, потом возвращай туда. А я не был такой порядок, я был типа футбольный фанат. Я человек по воспитанию, я всегда верующая семья. Потом, когда это время в Италии была очень верующая страна, я помню, когда мы были маленькие, когда приехал преподаватель, мы все подняли, крестились и читали молитву. Сейчас в Италии это запрещено. Католическая церковь, она пропала, она потеряла все ценности, которые мне учили. А я не могу смотреть на это. А я хотел. Потому что я знаю, что, может, моя жизнь, она много неправильно была. Я хотел равнять. И хотеть, как равняться, только через Бога. А поэтому, начинал учить русский.
Как в Италии сейчас население относится к России? Понимают, что происходит?
У нас СМИ это все под контроль Америки. У нас нельзя это говорить. У нас никто это не говорит. Не говорили 10 лет, что был на Донбассе. Не говорят сейчас. Говорят просто либо молчат, либо говорят по-другому. Люди начинают понимать, есть много альтернативных изданий. Телеграм у нас начинает быть популярный. Я принял православие в город Луганск в 2014 году. Это было октябрь 2014 году. Время, когда мы воевали, я просто принял такое решение. У меня друг из Башкирии, я говорил его, что я хотел. Он говорит, да надо, мы все православные, мы завтра поедем на передовой, и ты тоже должен быть. То давай. Я стал другой человек. Я не говорю, что я идеальный человек, потому что это неправда. Я не говорю, что я идеальный верующий, потому что я грешный. Но я стал лучше. Это я говорю, и все люди, которые меня знают, в Италии говорят, Андрей, ты стал другой. Это, правильно.
Lasciatemi cantare con la chitarra in mano. Lasciatemi cantare. Sono un italiano.
You know, I've been to Donbass multiple times as a war correspondent, and I was always shocked every time I meet a foreigner, a Westerner there on our side. I'm every time shocked because I understand that these people of a strong will and high intelligence, because they were not affected by the propaganda, and then they come to the place and they understood the truth themselves. You also have your own experience of being there. Could you share it?
Yeah, of course. As an international analytics and politics, I was really interested to see with my own eyes what's going on over there, especially now that it's in August. It will be three years that I've been living in Russia. So I have like the first chance. I was invited by Andrea Palmieri from National Lugansk University. So I've been there with my colleagues from Peru. He's also a journalist and sociologist, and he has been there also multiple times for humanitarian aid. So we have been there in Lugansk, and we gave conference into University of Lugansk. And after the second time, I was in February, and I was there longer, like 5 days. And I've been in Donetsk, in Ulenodar, and around Lugansk, in all the small villages that were free by a Russian army. And I was with the Italian correspondent Vittorio Rangeloni, that is also a friend of mine.
And so, mine, of course.
I was there and I was quite shocked because I had the opportunity to talk with people, which was not like academic. It's more like talking with people and collect a witness on the first hand. And I was shocked because I had the goosebump, because when you heard from the voice of old people, from grannies that they were killed, I mean that their relatives were killed or bombed only because they were Russian, it was something that really shocked me. Then I was also invited in an Orthodox church. It was a famous monastery, one of the most famous in that area, and I saw artillery that shelled against the monastery, and the Ukrainian, they know that there were people, civilian people inside the monastery. So my idea is how...
Was it Neoglidar?
Yes, it was Neoglidar.
I guess it's Nicola Vasilievsky.
Yes, Nicola Vasilievsky, yes, sorry, I forgot the name, yes.
San Nicola.
San Nicola, yeah, like in Bari, yes, and San Basilio, yes. So I talked with the priest, and I don't understand with people like that they support, I said, like freedom and European values and human rights, how they can shell rockets against a church. And after I saw that they destroyed a lot of icons, so I thought that it's like pure Satanism, as like President Putin said, and our Metropolitan also Kirill said. I saw that in first hand. I saw how they shelter, for example, for Easter and for New Year's Eve, they target civilians in the main square of Donetsk. So there was a genocide intention to commit a genocide. Mm-hmm. And then Vittorio, they showed me a lot of, like in a private, we were in a bar, they showed me a lot of cruel image. There were a lot of kids and body lie down on the floor, they were killed. So it was quite shocked. And the other image that I was shocked, I remember that I took a picture, was the University of Donetsk. Why? I don't understand how they couldn't shell and shoot against, for example, university. Because they want to erase the Russian culture, because which is like the military, is not military target, university or church. So there you can understand. And I also saw that in the school they were full of mercenaries. So still there is propaganda in Europe that said it's Ukrainian-Russian conflict. No, as I always said when I'm invited over, like in other media, it's NATO or 32, 31 NATO states against Russian, because they were mercenary. I saw passports from everywhere in the world. There were, of course, a lot of British, Brits, Americans, French, German, Georgian, Baltic, Polish, they were merchant. They were even like Polish soldiers that usually they wear another uniform. And for example, like Canadian or Australian, because they always people they said, Canadian and Australian, they're a little bit different. They are better than Brits or Americans. No, they were a full squad of Canadian snipers that they occupied a hospital. They use a hospital to shell against the market, for example, Donetsk market. They were like 5 or 6 kilometers far away from the city of Donetsk. So basically they were inside the city. Also. And this situation, and the other news, they used a HIMARS that I don't know how does it cost. It's quite expensive robot.
More than $1 million
exactly.
each.
and they shoot against Targovi Center, like a mall.
Shopping mall.
A mall.
Shopping mall,
Sorry,
yeah.
because I'm thinking always in Russia, shopping mall or a market. So how it's possible? The idea is to spread fear and terror against civil population because they know they cannot recover the territory they have lost. So that it's pure terrorism. And after we saw what happened here, unfortunately, inside Russia with the Daria Dugina and other people that were killed, Tatarsky in St. Petersburg. So the British Secret Service, MI6, they backed as Ukrainian SBU and to organize the terrorist act against civil population.
Wonderful words. I totally agree, and you've given a really profound input. I can judge it from a professional way because, well, that's absolutely true, and I'm so happy and grateful from all the Russian people to you and to other colleagues that cover the conflict and show just the truth, because you don't need to operate with materials. You saw this yourself, and you now talk not from our side, not on behalf of Russia, but you talk from yourself, and that's really precious and important. And you mentioned that the enemy wants to erase our culture, so that's why they target churches, universities, etc. And what's so special about Russian culture? I mean, for you personally, it shouldn't be a lecture, but in the final block of our conversation, what is so special about our culture that the globalists want to destroy now, from your point of view?
I agree with the thing that here in Russia, important is family, God, and the country. Okay, Russia itself, and that's what probably surprised me the most when I arrived, because I really feel that people love their country, and the country is like a family, and they love their family, so they're very attached to these values, and that's what I like the most about Russian culture. And I feel that's something that is lost completely in Italy. Of course, I'm talking about Italy, but in general, like in the Western countries, like if they would ask me, are you a patriot of Italy? I would love to say yes. I would love to say yes. But a patriot about what? Like I would not come up with really important values, okay, Italian values, like, of course, like few years ago, as he was saying, family values, of course, culture, architecture, yes, this is very important. In Italy, we have much of that, but now I feel that most of it is lost, and I'm really sad about it. So when I arrived here, I discovered a new part of myself too, like love to a country. Like for me, Russia is, of course, my second home, just because in Italy I have my family, of course. But for me, when I come here, I come back home. Every time that I'm coming from Italy here, I feel home, and I'm very happy that I decided to come to Russia. Russia, it's amazing, and Russian narod, people, narod, also.
By the way, you're wearing more than a Russian dress.
Yeah,
From a Russian designer.
Yeah, I know, it's so beautiful and so elegant. Yeah.
Simone?
Well, of course, it's my point of view. Like I think that why they wanna erase Russian culture. Okay? First, we don't have time because it's a long topic. Because Russophobic was born several centuries ago. It was the British Empire, after the German, the Prussian, and then the heritage was by the Americans. So they always use and build up stereotypes. So since, like, for example, the Tsar Ivan Grozny, that it was depicted as that he killed his son, but only basically because he's a rejected Catholic. So from that time there was this type of propaganda against Russia. Several authors, they wrote a book about like against the Russophobia during the century. So my main idea that today, if we analyze the actual ongoing international relationship, let's see, Russia is the only super states, bigger superpower that has its own sovereignty. Maybe there's China, and I have some doubts about India, but we can say, so it's the only state that can stop the liberal globalism, can face this problem. I work inside, for example, the UN. All the liberal progressives idea, they are made propaganda by a laboratory that it's inside the UN, and inside the European Union with the help of organization NGO like Open Society by George Soros, US Aid, Rockefeller Center. Okay, so we can see that here they attack Russia, for example, for stupid things like for example, LGTB propaganda. Here they know what is normal. That for me it's normal. There is a man and a woman. So as Maria Zakharova said, Europe states that they don't know who is a woman and who is a man. They have no future, you know. And I saw that that when I also work as a lawyer in Barcelona. There is a propaganda of illegal immigration. They change ethnically our demographic population in Europe is like a great replacement, and they replaced also value. They want to create a fluid, a gender fluid citizen that they call only work, make money, and buy products manufactured exactly by American transnational, multinationally. This like they hate Russian and they hate President Putin or the Patriarch Kirill for what they represent. It's not a problem, because we saw it's not a problem President Putin. If in the future there will be another president that fight for Russia, it's gonna be a problem. We saw now there is not a problem of communism. Russia it's ended communism 25 years ago. They still the same propaganda. So it's not politically oriented, but it's values oriented. In fact, in Washington they changed. Before there was the Bureau against anti-communist activity. Now they rebranded Bureau for Eurasian activities. So it's always the same. The project is to dismantle
the Russian Empire
Russia in little region. In 9-10 states they can
manage.
Exactly, and take all the natural resources for free from Russia. This is the main idea that is going on. And on all the administration, or British or American, is the same patterns that it's repeat over again. History is cyclic. It was the idea of Eurasia, Adolf Mackinder.
What a wonderful and profound input we are having in this episode. No surprise, you study and teach in major universities of our country. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I also know that you enjoyed it. And if you feel like coming to Russia, you're always welcome. And know that we're on the same side, on the side of God and sanity.
Well, as our guest. See you soon. Bye.